Hi, this is your favorite sorcerer, Aurelius Sopax, on Sunday morning, March the 10th. And I want to talk about the mind and its control. The mind is not only in magic, but in all other areas of life, a fundamental tool. Yes, it is a tool. Even though a lot of people, I would say the majority of people, experience the mind as sort of like a determining factor in their lives, or rather, let's say the activity of the mind, which is not under their control, becomes a determining factor in their lives. I believe that the mind is supposed to be used in a different way, in a different manner. I also believe that life is war. Life is war in the sense of war being the competition of opposing and often contradictory movements, energies, and actions. The world that we live in is, yes, consists of physical objects. However, at the same time, we exist in a mental realm. We live in a multidimensional universe. And most of the things that come into the physical realm are the result of what happens in an invisible realm. You could say that the war that we all fight, and everyone is part of that war, whether you want to acknowledge that or not. This war is taking place in a fifth dimensional realm, so to speak. The ones that win in the physical will have won in the spiritual first. And when I say spiritual, I include everything that is non-physical. It includes thoughts, that includes emotions, that includes intentions, all of that. One of my favorite books of all time is The Art of War. I'm sure I'm not alone with that. Many, many other people love this book. And there's a reason why it has been a classic for many millennia now. Why is it that we still read books, or a book, that has been written more than 3,000 years ago? It's because it stood the test of time, and books like that will never go out of fashion. Why? Because they speak of fundamental principles in life. There are very, very few books these days that are written in that manner. And in fact, I don't think it was ever different. I'm sure many, many philosophies, many, many books have been written that are completely forgotten because they don't talk about the fundamental conditions that are timeless. Now, yes, I'm a martial artist, so The Art of War is something that most martial artists will have read at some point. Among others, such as, let's say, the Book of Five Rings by Musashi and others. However, I'm also a magician, right? A metaphysicist, an occultist, a sorcerer. And I live in a multidimensional universe, right? We all do, but I'm aware of that. And most of the activity in my life, believe it or not, yes, I'm a very busy guy in the physical world too, but most of the activity, most of the actions that I take are not taking place in the physical world. They're taking place in this mentioned fifth dimensional plane. And I believe most magicians do that as well, of course. And that's what we win. We keep winning. Because if you have a perspective like this, first of all, you have very little ego investment in yourself. And that will allow you to transcend the self and sort of like control the dynamics of the chessboard instead of being a pawn or a figure on the chessboard. And that is really the mastery that we all strive for. whether we understand that or not. So, what am I doing here? And what is this video about? Well, I have The Art of War here on my phone. And I will read it, and I will give you my interpretation of certain passages in that book from the perspective of a magician. And I'm going to try to translate that language. Unfortunately, I don't speak Mandarin. But I'm going to use an English translation, and I'm going to use that translation and try to translate the principles that the author suggests for the battlefield. And I'm going to try to apply them to the fifth dimensional realm, to the realm of spirituality and the mind, which I'm completely convinced that Sun Tzu wrote that book with that battle in mind as well. So, hopefully you can gain something out of this. This is what I'm doing this morning, and I wanted to share that with you, hoping that you can benefit from it. So let's begin. Sun Tzu said, the art of war is of fundamental importance to the state. It is a matter of life and death. It is the determinant of one's survival or destruction, and is therefore a subject that must be thoroughly examined. See, the term war usually denotes two or more conflicting interests, conflicting ideas, conflicting intentions. And in this world of duality, we're constantly in battle with conflicting forces, be it in our immediate surroundings, in distant surroundings, or in our own minds. There are infinite states of consciousness, which are, in fact, states of being. And we always identify with a certain state of being, such as I'm good, I'm bad, I'm concerned, I'm worried, I'm good, I'm rich, I'm poor, I'm in danger. And maybe these thoughts are not as concrete as what I just mentioned, those sentences there. However, the emotional state, which is what matters, the physiological states that result from the frequency that the person is tuned into, determine a lot. See, between opposing forces, there can only be one that will win, that will take the throne. In a similar manner, only one thought, only one state of consciousness can occupy your mind to the point where it becomes a physiological reality. And once it's become a physiological reality, it begins to influence the subtle energies in your surroundings to materialize as a physical reality. Something that is often not mentioned by people that teach maybe the law of attraction or even magic, witchcraft. People focus, in my opinion, too much on external things, external tools, external substances, such as incense, tools, sigils, spirits. Yes, all of these things have their place. But the key ingredient in all of that, in the change of reality, in the change of circumstances, and the creation of new things, the key point of all of that is a shift in your physiology. When you imagine things, when you use your imagination to create certain scenarios, a certain outcome, and you focus on it to the point where it begins to influence your physiology, meaning you really, really experience it, then at that point, you will have created something that is having an effect on the external world. Before that, all thoughts, all ideas, all speech, all of that stuff is not going to have an effect on the external world. This is often forgotten. So yes, we can affect the external world through internal changes, but those internal changes must go through a physiological shift that matches the frequency of the reality that you want to manifest. Very, very important. So only one can win. It can only be one. And that one intention, one thought, one goal has to be so clear to you that it begins to become and be your internal physiological reality. So the inner reality must precede the external reality. See, the mind is constantly moving, going from this to that, this to that. This is why it is crucial that we as magicians liberate ourselves from the mind to an extent. In what way? As we transcend it, we become capable of influencing the mind in turn. We can then use it as a tool, because that was what the mind is. It is a useful tool that allows us to pick and form realities externally. So identification with the mind is just as detrimental as identification with the body, because both of those are great tools, but they're not your identity. You are that which is beyond. And that which is beyond can use its will and intention to change the activity of the mind. And as you change and control the activity of the mind and make physical changes through physiological shifts, you have mastered yourself and the world and your life. Remember the saying that the truly great man conquers himself. This is what is meant by that. This is what is meant by that. Next, the art is governed by 5 factors, which are to be analyzed and contemplated to assess the situation in the battlefield. These are the path, heaven, earth, the commander, the rule. The path is what causes others to be in complete accord with their ruler, regardless of whether they live or die. With that, there shall be no room for danger and betrayal. Heaven signifies yin and yang, cold and hot, and time or season. Earth relates to measurable factors, high and low, danger and security, wide and narrow, and life and death. The commander denotes wisdom, trust, benevolence, courage, and an unyielding nature. The rule refers to recognizing the hierarchy of the divisions in a system, each knowing who the master is. These are the 5 factors known to every general. He who knows them is victorious, but he who does not is bound to fail. So, how do you interpret this? See, before man is capable of winning a battle, which is life, really, he must first know himself well. You must understand the structure of the game that you're playing. You must understand the circumstances and the conditions of the battle that you're in, which includes internal as well as external factors. The mind, its structure, and its relation to the external world. In that sense, the path is referring to universal law. As within, so without. What is experienced externally has its root cause and its origin within. We could also call that the purpose. You might ask yourself, maybe you had a difficult childhood, or maybe whatever. Everyone experiences harsh circumstances in some way or another, right? And maybe you've asked yourself before why you had to go through all of those things. Why is that? Why is that? And at the same time, you will probably acknowledge that these harsh circumstances and these difficult things that you had to go through and overcome molded you, formed you into the individual that you are right now. Do you maybe think that there's a connection between the two? Do you just entertain this thought for a second? Do you believe that there's maybe a higher nature that is intrinsic to you, something like a soul, that is trying to perfect itself. It's trying to fulfill its own potential. And as such, it is influencing circumstances around you so you can be molded into the person that you are supposed to become. See, I definitely do believe in destiny. That is not a contradiction with knowing that you can change reality. It is more like this. See, when somebody builds something, somebody builds maybe a successful business, somebody creates something fantastic, somebody create something externally, that always requires the person to change in the process. Once the project is finished, they are a different person than before. And when you ask most people, those that are actually able to hold on to the things that they've created, such as money, for example. A lot of people make money, but they will lose it. It's because they don't grow with that. But those that actually are able to, create it themselves and hold on to it, those are people whose character, whose personality, whose essence has grown in the process to make it. And now they're emotionally, psychologically, and energetically ready to hold on to it. They have mastered themselves to the extent where they're able to control this bigger influence that they will now have, you see. And in a very similar manner, you see, most people that are drawn to the occult and drawn to magic usually go through more troubles than most people, energetically, and in many other ways. Those that are blessed are tested a lot, or something like that. That's kind of like the essence of the saying. Now, what does that mean? I believe that your destiny determines a lot of your challenges. So there's a lot of variety along your path, but there's still a path that is determined by your soul and your essence. And as such, you will be exposed to the circumstances that are supposed to form you and shape you into the individual, into the person that you're supposed to become. So that alone allows for a great reframe, such as being grateful for any challenge that crosses your path, because it allows you an opportunity, a new opportunity to grow stronger and grow better and grow more refined. Heaven, in turn, that's the second factor mentioned. Heaven refers to the big cycles that are going on in nature. What is going on with your astrological chart? And of course, it's not about what's going on in the astrological chart, but the astrological chart signifies certain energetic shifts and energetic changes, right? So what is going on beyond yourself, beyond your individual energetic dynamic? You have to understand that, and you need to be clear about that. You should study divination, geomancy, astrology, tarot, feng shui, I Ching, and utilize those to understand the bigger energetic dynamics. Those that swim with the stream, metaphorically speaking, meaning they understand the circumstances around themselves and align themselves with the natural direction of things, will always win. Because the opponent is now fighting against the ocean. The opponent is fighting against the world as a whole, whereas you have aligned yourself with the world. So you become a force of nature. Understand heaven. Earth, the next factor, in my interpretation, refers to the things that are tangible, things that you can discern and know through your five senses. Data, facts, numbers. These things cannot be ignored. This is a big problem in, let's say people that get into magic or spirituality. Unfortunately, you will find very, very few well-balanced individuals in that realm. And partly, I think that has to do with maybe the personality traits that you need to have in order to be a good magician. And they often are the complete opposite of what you need in order to be a good, let's say, businessman or even a military person or something like that. Because these people cannot afford to lie to themselves, because there's just too much at stake. They must be very, very good at seeing reality for what it is, without being clouded by hopes and dreams and wishes and their ego, you see. So for most people that are like spiritually gifted, being rational and accepting raw truth and just facts, numbers, is very, very hard. It doesn't come natural to them. It takes a special person or somebody who through hard work adopts the other side to become a complete human being, because you need both. Just as we live in a universe that is as above, so below, there are different ways of looking at reality, and both are valid to an extent, but all by themselves, they're not complete. Yin and yang, you see. Most people that are completely rational and very, very good at analyzing things, numbers, and clear-cut circumstances, these people are usually have a hard time using their imagination, and they have a hard time seeing beyond what's obvious, you see. And then you have the other, the opposite, the other extreme, which I mentioned, which are people that are completely living in a fantasy world. And unfortunately, that applies to most people that deal with magic and spirituality. And that is the reason why they're not very successful in life in general, because they prefer the illusion and the comfort in the illusion to dealing with actual facts of reality. Very few people, and I'm glad that I'm one of those, and not to toot my own horn. I'm really not trying to boast, really not. But it is a fact that I have both those qualities, which I'm really grateful for. But I believe that everybody can develop them. So you're born with a certain tendency usually. Okay, people are either this or that. But you can train yourself to develop the other qualities as well, and you are going to benefit from that a lot, because now you're really, really powerful. When you combine the two, the rational and the irrational mind, the intuitive and the factual, the conscious and the subconscious, the logic and the emotion, now you've become a true general. The next factor, the commander. See, the commander never yields to the whims or emotions of the troops. There's an agenda, there's a war to be won, a battle to be fought. It does not matter if the troops are tired. It does not matter if the troops are scared or emotional. It does not matter if the troops are hungry. There's a goal to be accomplished, and a good commander is capable of creating the right motivation within his troops. A good leader is first and foremost a good motivator. He must be a good psychologist, because he has to understand the psychological structure of his troops. He must understand what motivates them. He must understand their hopes and dreams. He must understand what they want out of life. He must understand their fears. All of that. And then he must be able to use all of that to accomplish the right outcome. Not to just manipulate the troops. No, he does that for the common good. Because, yes, the individual soldier can afford to be emotional and have like a good day and a bad day. The general or the commander must always focus on the agenda. And in the end, all the soldiers will be grateful, because in the moments where they wanted to give up, the commander stood in front of them, unwavering, and he said, "No, we will keep going. I don't care. Either do this or we die here together. It does not matter. And we'll die together because I'm part of you. I'm one of you guys." So what am I saying here? And what is the commander in your own life? It is your will, the willpower that you must use to focus your thoughts, emotions, and physiology, which is the result of the focusing of the thoughts and the emotions, on the outcome. You must keep it focused on the end goal, on the win of the battle, continuously until it is manifested. And just like the commander or the general cannot listen to the individual soldier, he must stay focused on the goal. Just like that, you cannot listen to your little whims, your little emotions, your little I feel sorry for myself, the little this and that and the other. No. You must take charge. You must be the commander of your mind. And as you become the commander of your mind, you become the commander of your emotions, your physiology. And as you do that, you become the commander of your life. Because the external circumstances are going to be the result of that. But that takes discipline. And discipline is a muscle that you can train. The next factor, the last factor here, is the rule. What is the rule? An army needs exact ways of how everyone interacts with everybody. They need a clear chain of command, and they need penalties for not following those rules, sometimes very, very severe. That translates in your own life. That must translate into clear-cut systems and rules that you have for your life. If I were to ask you right now, how do you manage your communication lines? And you don't have a clear answer of this communication goes through this, and this. Those people have access to me directly. Those people don't have access to me directly, and so on and so forth. If you don't have something like that in place, you are setting yourself up for failure. Why is that? Because remember, the most important thing for you is to control what you think about and what you focus on emotionally. And if you allow communication lines of other people access to your life, you're inviting chaos, which is just going to make it harder for yourself. Translated into military speak, that would be the common soldier being able to run up directly to the general or the president and being able to tell him about this and that and the other. That is complete chaos, and everybody just talks to everybody in whatever way they want. No, there are certain structures that you have to keep in place. There's a certain vocabulary that you use, which is universally understood, which, I mean, this is another topic that I even did an entire video on. Why is it important that you define words that you use? And why is it important that you communicate with people based on clear-cut, defined terms? Especially if you have an organization, because otherwise you will have traffic in which everybody just interprets the signals and the signs on the street, on the road. It will be absolute chaos. And chaos is the opposite to success. Order and structure is what creates power. Life itself is the constant battle of order against chaos. Right now in your body, there are trillions of systems that are working on cohesion and maintaining themselves against entropy, chaos from the outside world, you know. I could go into many more examples, but I think I made it clear. You must systemize and structure your day. You must systemize and structure all your activities to the extent possible. Don't worry, it's not going to get boring, because there will be enough chaos to go for many lifetimes, believe me. However, those that fail to plan to fail. I'm sure you heard that before. And systems and how you do things, when you do things, how they're supposed to be done, when they're supposed to be delivered. Extremely important. And that is the only way you can win the battle of your life. Otherwise, you will fail like 99% of people. Whether they're magicians and can call upon spirits or know a ritual here and there. The proof is in the pudding. So, my session here in the sauna is finished, and I shouldn't stay here much longer. And let me know in the comments if you liked the content, if you got something out of that. Now, when you got something out of it, I'm going to continue doing these videos where I'm interpreting not just the art of war. I'm going to interpret many of those classics so you can apply the essence of those teachings. And I'm sure you're going to find your own interpretations as well. But it's always helpful to have somebody who's a practicing magician, successful in spirituality, but also in all other areas of life, help you with making progress, right? There's always somebody behind us. There's always somebody ahead of us. And I'm extending my hand so that you can cut years off your learning curve. With that being said, I talk to you in the next video. Bye-bye.